Reddit comments. What's the worst thing you ever did as turned on teenager? Okay, so this was 1965. I had a girl I was more than friendly with who was willing to provide certain services for me. One night I was really in a bad way, so I snuck to her house and put the ladder up to her window. Her father was wise to the window tricks, so he put screws in the track, so the window only opened 4 inches high. Damn the fire safety, he wasn't having a frisky daughter. So I decided, since I couldn't get in my dingailing wood, I got up high enough on the ladder to poke my dog through the 4-inch space so she could service me. It was wonderful until I began to peak and my leg shook and I went off the ladder to the ground, yanking my member from her mouth at terminal velocity. I hit the lawn hard. I got up and grabbed the ladder and ran to put it back on the side of the garage and then raced home. I noticed when I got to the woods that my ding dong was throbbing. I had 4 tooth drags down my shaft. It was sheer pain to fold it up in my shorts. I made it home and I was having such a pain in my back I just went to sleep. I woke up the next day and was black and blue all over my back. I had broken a rib. I couldn't take the pain anymore. So I went to my dad and told him the whole story. He didn't say a word and gave me a few pain pills and told my mom he was taking me to the market with him the next day so I could help load trucks. We instead snuck off to the doctor and got me x-rayed and fixed up. My dad covered for me saying I tripped on a pallet. My dad always told me if I tell the truth he would back me up. Well, he proved it that day. I still love that man more than anything and miss him every day. There was one time where the internet was down and I was super turned on. My family were on a 2-day trip to collect a cat they had been looking at online. I know, kinda weird. Anyway, I'm looking around in the attic for the box for the router, thinking maybe there will be something on that to help me out. I come across this black shoebox that was covered completely in cobwebs, brushed them off, and opened the box. It was full of black and white photos of some family and there was one picture with who I guessed was the mother. I still remember it now. She was in a black one-piece swimsuit with just enough cleavage to get my premature blood flowing. I beat it to it like twice up in the attic. 18-year-olds have quick revival skills and brought it downstairs. I left it in my locker for future use and basically forget about it. Fast forward 2 weeks later and I'm sitting in my room. My mom walks in and asks do I have the remote for the stereo. I was busy playing video games and basically shrugged her off. So she takes it upon herself to look through my lockers. I don't even realize she's doing this, but I turn around and sure enough she's found the darn family inspired vintage stimuli. I'm starting to go red, so I pretend I didn't see her and she just calls over, never punch alien. This is so sweet. Where did you find this picture? I had forgotten about it. How this picture of me, Larry, and basically she starts listing off her family members. I'm freaking out internally. So unknowingly to me, I beat it off to a picture of my now dead grown mother. It doesn't get much worse than that. I waited until my parents went to choir practice and then I grabbed one of my t-shirts. I slathered the t-shirt with Vaseline and stuffed it between my couch cushions. Then I got one of my secret mags, opened it to a nice page, and laid it out on the couch. I proceeded to drop my drawers, get down on my knees, and pound the flip out of my couch. I pumped my shirt full of my 18-year-old seed and got cleaned up before they came home. It sounds bad, but there's nothing more natural than the love between a young man and a piece of upholstery. Why would they build so much furniture with kneeling ding-dang height crevices if they didn't want you to stick your staff in it? To set the scene, I was 18, living at home with my family. My room was the top floor of a tall house. There were 3 floors below me. For the past few weeks I've been texting this girl I met. After having a few dates, she finally comes back to my house one night. She texted her parents my address, asking to be picked up later that night. My parents are watching TV on the ground floor, but we escaped up many flights of stairs to my room. Officially, this was to hang out, but my parents are pretty liberal and in all likelihood knew our intentions were far more sinful. So we started watching TV, eventually getting closer, exchanging glances. Apollo 13 was on. Tom Hanks was lifting off and so was I. One thing I should point out is that this girl was properly filthy. This was not something I was particularly aware of before this night. Mid-movie, she decides to migrate from the sofa to my bed and slyly claim, "I bet you can't get me off here." In an ironic twist of fate, as everything starts to go wrong for Jim Lovell and his crew, everything seems to be going right for the first time in my boning life. A few minutes of playful wrestling turned into lip biting, then kissing for a while, and then both of our hands started to move further south. The next 15 minutes of Apollo 13 were a bit of a haze for me. Out of nowhere there is a distinct bang and slight vibration moving up my house. The front door has been opened. There are muffled voices from the ground floor. We both freeze. My fingers have stopped mid-entry. We decided prudent to go downstairs and investigate what's going on. The voices in the hallway get clearer, our footsteps get louder and our presence is known. No going back now. I step down the final few stairs, the girl following behind. Slowly from the legs up these talking figures are increasingly unveiled. It's her parents. It's her parents who came to pick her up. Her parents who I have never met, now talking to my parents, as if arranging some kind of awkward marriage proposal as in the days of yore. Her mother locks eyes at me, reaches out an outstretched hand to shake mine. My eyes widen open, my jaw drops as I begin to realize I have had no opportunity to wash my hands. The adrenaline resumes pumping, and the shock begins to set in. My arm hasn't received this message though, as almost through reflex my dominant hand begins to move towards her mother's. Our hands clasp together for the most moist, uncomfortable, horrific handshake that I will never forget. This will be buried, and that's probably a good thing. Here it goes. My upstairs bedroom had no door. Just an open wall with stairs to the first floor. Anyways, one night my dad was downstairs with his then wife and her kids in the living room, which was right below my room. I wasn't with them because I was doing homework after searching blindly through Google for pictures of bazungas and badangs. I didn't know porn sites existed. Eventually I found some good shit and started going to town. Now this is where I messed up. My room setup was weird. To my left was my bed and nightstand, which had a lamp on it that was quite strong and pointing straight at me. To my right were the stairs and a big white wall that could be seen from downstairs. I eventually noticed that the TV downstairs had gone quiet. I turned to the stairs and wall and realized that I had been casting a giant, jerking shadow puppet on the big white wall that could clearly be seen from downstairs. I have no idea when the peeps downstairs noticed or for how long they'd been traumatized. I didn't care in the moment. I went into my bathroom and finished up, went to bed, and left early for school the next morning. No one ever brought it up. I hate younger me. When I was around 15 had sex with a friend at her parents, housed in her younger sister's room. Weird but wouldn't complain because sex. Halfway through noticed closet is ajar. See someone peeking, but I was really into it and didn't want to stop. Left as soon as I finished because I felt bad, embarrassed and scared of parents coming back. Brought it up after, and this girl told me she charged her sister £20 to watch because she liked me. We did it 3 more times before it progressed. OHH. I was not very popular, so it made me feel really good about myself, but I kinda felt ashamed too because of the circumstances. Progressed to what? Ended up doing the deed off and on with both for a while, not at the same time. I have a stepsister that is 5 years older than I. When I was 18 I was the most turned on little heifer in the neighborhood. One day I had this brilliant idea to look in her panty drawer. Good thing I did. She has the best collection of thongs I have ever seen. I took a few of them to my room and cranked out many loads into them. Once they dried I would put them back in her drawer and get another pair. I used every pair she had. I guess there must have been about a gallon of my cum in those panties. Years later I told her about it, and she laughed and said, "Oh, I know." She said she noticed all the dried sperm on them. I was horrified, but she was really cool about it. On occasion, my girlfriend and I would pick a terrible movie to go see in the theater after it had been released for several days. We would end up being the only ones in the theater and had a good hour to do whatever we wanted. About halfway through the movie, the attendant would walk the premises looking for junk or whatever was in between the seats. So, about halfway through me receiving my first blowy, the attendant walks in. He shines his stupid flashlight across the theater until it lights us up. My girlfriend and I froze like deer caught in the headlights, mid-BJ. That poor attendant just stood there for a second and looked at us until my GF decided to flip him off. and continue slobbing my knob. He shook his head, turned off the torch, and made his exit. For the rest of the movie nobody bothered us. When the movie was over, upon exiting, I looked over the counter at him in the lobby, gave the guy a thumbs up and a big smile, then left the building.